Well, you can only practice evil so long before it's payday someday, and the chickens have come home to roost at the Pediatric Gender Clinic at Vanderbilt. And I have many more cliches, but you'll have to stick around and watch the rest of the show for that. The Daily Wire and Matt Walsh have been looking into what Vanderbilt has been doing with their Pediatric Gender Clinic, and let's just say it is horrifying. But there's also some pretty interesting responses to Matt Walsh and what the Daily Wire has been doing that I think reveal some very important things to us. Much like in the days of the Bible, when Jesus roamed the earth, when he shined light in dark places, the demons came out and shrieked. And we're seeing a lot of that lately as these things have been exposed. So we're going to talk about that and more all today on Indie Thinker. Don't forget, today's show is sponsored by our friends over at Ancur. Now, I imagine that if you are an entrepreneur, if you have a small business or even a large business, you're always looking for innovative and creative strategies to take your business to the next level. I know one of those can be outsourcing things that take up a bunch of capital, a bunch of time, and a bunch of manpower to a company that can do it with more excellence and do it cheaper. So it's a no-brainer. A real entrepreneur is going to invest their time and their effort in the things that they really want to invest it in. And so you can outsource things like small business solutions, payroll, accounting, and so many other things to our friends over at Ancur. That's Ancur.biz. They are your one-stop shop for all of your business solutions. And in fact, they're running a special right now on payroll. If you let them know that Indie Thinker sent you, they'll lock you into a great rate and some great people who can help you with all of your payroll solutions. And again, they can help you with so much more than that. So go to Ancur.biz today and see how they can help your small business thrive. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Today we're going to be crushing a particularly interesting echo chamber, and we're going to be doing so, as we always do, with faith and reason in combination with each other. Just to show that Christians, yes, while faith people are people that also can use their brains and think for themselves. And one of the things we need to start thinking for ourselves on is the issue of the existence of gender pediatric clinics. Now, there's so much to talk about here as far as that stuff is concerned, because there's a lot of equivocating on this issue in terms of like the fact that small children are not, getting double mastectomies, and small children are not getting hysterectomies. But the reality is that minors are. And it's weird that we have such an issue with big pharma, especially on the left. Like Joe Biden has decried big pharma before. You can see that here.
Not this year. We beat pharma this year. We beat pharma this year, and it mattered. We're going to change people's lives. We finally beat pharma.
So all while decrying big pharma, he himself is electing people in the trans movement and continuing to endorse policies that agree with what's going on in gender clinics like the one at Vanderbilt, just down the road from me in Nashville. And so when things hit a little close to home, just like we did in our last show, I like to pay attention to it. So there's a doctor just recently named Shane Taylor. Now, Shane is affiliated with the Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt and helps them with their gender clinic, their pediatric gender clinic. And the Daily Wire just recently exposed a video that she did that is a big pharma dream. She is talking about phalloplasties, double mastectomies, and all of the things that go along with gender transitioning and how much money you can make from them. Of course, the most important thing in business. So here's Shane saying that.
Put down some costs of how much money we think each patient would bring in. And this is only including top surgery. This isn't including any bottom surgery. And it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s, because that requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. The female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties, and that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of OR time, and they make money. They make money for the hospital.
Good news, everybody. Just with the simple procedure of a phalloplasty, you can support your whole gender clinic right now. And if you act now, we'll also throw in a used car. Now, if that didn't give you the creeps, I don't know what will, but suffice to say, that video being exposed should have elicited responses of horror, shame, and an acknowledgement on behalf of Vanderbilt, and a quick distancing from this doctor and what she said in this video. However, that's not what happened. Actually, what happened is Vanderbilt began to slowly but surely scrub their website and any information that they could find that details the fact that they are basically butchering children for the sake of money. Now, I would think that this also, outside of the equivocating class here in America that refuses to recognize they're behind from a hole in the ground, you know, those kind of people who literally, if they saw a hole in the ground, they would say, "Why is my butt on the ground?" Outside of those people, I would think this would, what we just saw there, would elicit a unanimous response, would elicit a desire from people with a little bit of what's left of a conscience to say, this is evil, something must be done about it. This is evil and something must be done about it, whether you're a child or an adult, much less the fact that Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire have been exposing that these kind of surgeries are happening in 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and 18-year-olds. I mean, these are people who just gained the ability to vote and still cannot drink, some of which just gained the ability to drive, who, scientifically speaking, their the prefrontal cortex is not even fully developed, but yet they can make life-altering decisions that mutilate their body. Suffice to say, I would think we could come up with a unanimous, decree about how evil these things are, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Because Matt Walsh has received some pretty interesting responses, and that's really what I want to focus on our show today, because I am a glutton for punishment, and I am always looking for ways to expose the progressive Christian movement for the hypocrites that they are. And while they are way more vocal on social media than actually conservative Christians, like myself, I still believe that it is important to expose things when they are known. And Matt Walsh received some interesting feedback based upon his posting about the Vanderbilt Clinic. One of them comes from an old friend that we've covered on the show in the past, a guy named Matthew Paul Turner. I'll throw up on the screen right now Matt's response to the progressive Christian community coming at him, and it will also include what Matthew Paul Turner said to him on Twitter.
I should also note here that the progressive Christian community in Nashville, otherwise known as, heretics, have taken a special interest in this case and are rallying around the hospital. Matthew Paul Turner is a Christian children's book author who came out as gay a few years ago and then left his wife and children. And he tweeted, "You're a terrible human, Matt Walsh. You make nothing better, and one day your sad little existence will reap what it has sown over and over again."
Now, there we go. That's the kind of love that we just expect to come from those benevolent and caring progressive Christians that are so tolerant and not judgmental at all. You will reap what you sow, Matt Walsh. I mean, for all the talk of conservative Christians being the judgmental ones, I hear very few of them talking this way and posting these kind of things on social media. But the progressive Christians, who are the most benevolent among us, surely have no problem doing so when they find somebody that they disagree with ideologically. Now, for those of you who don't know, Matthew Paul Turner is the former editor at CCM Magazine, which is the largest, I think, Christian music publication in the world. He is also a children's author, or I should say self-proclaimed children's author. And he wrote the genuinely beautifully illustrated book, I Am God's Dream, in which he soft peddles his progressive Christianity in the form of a children's book to try to convince children that God loves every decision and everything you do, no matter what, no matter how destructive it is. So as you can imagine, Matthew Paul Turner is, if you go to his Twitter bio, you can see his pronouns in his handle. And as you can imagine, he is somebody that identifies as a homosexual man. I think it was back in 2018, he left his kids and his wife and came out of the closet. Now, I don't know where the progressive Christian community stands as far as adultery is concerned, but it wouldn't surprise me if they have no authoritative stance on the issue, and that it's perfectly fine to sinfully leave your children and your family to the wayside as you pursue your sexual exploits. Now, all that pushed aside, I think what this actually does is reveal to us something that I think is so important, and I've kind of already alluded to it, which is this, that progressive Christianity is a Halloween costume. We're right on the precipice of Halloween celebration, and yes, my kids will be dressing up as cute little who knows what. But nonetheless, it'll be cute because they're my kids. But on the precipice of Halloween, we see in Scooby-Doo fashion that as we pull off the mask of those who are wearing the costume of Christianity is a group of people who parade around as Christians but actually aren't Christians at all.
The court fool.
And the progressive Christian community is famous for things like deconstruction and famous for calling out conservative evangelicals, fundamentalists, the big F word. They put on the trappings of Christianity and they wrap it up with nice Christian language and they talk about tolerance and they talk about love, but in fact, they are the most judgmental group within the Christian movement, bar none. If you do not agree with them wholeheartedly and buy into all of their false doctrine, then you yourself, my friend, are nothing more than a Christian nationalist. And when pressed with a definition on Christian nationalist, they will either come up with the most unthoughtful, anybody who voted for Donald Trump, which leaves you with the question, what about those who voted for Hillary Clinton and call themselves Christians? Or they will give you this response, a person that is a white supremacist. So, since I can count on one hand how many Christians I know that are actually white supremacist, and I've been in the Christian movement now going on 22 years or so, I think it's worth us delving into the excesses of the progressive Christian movement. And when I say that, I mean people like Matthew Paul Turner, who wants to post about inclusion and respecting all people for their identity. But of course, the moment you come out as conservative, you will not be respected for your identity. You will be canceled and you will be hated. I'm talking about people like the new evangelicals who have an ungodly large following on social media, and undeservedly so, who proclaim that they're the new evangelicals when really all they are is nothing more than an old rehashing of liberal theology. Just recently, they posted on an innocent post from John Cooper, who is the lead singer of Skillet, and posted a joke about Michael Knowles, because he was at a speech that Michael Knowles was given, and Michael Knowles, of course, is of the Daily Wire. He posted that Michael Knowles made fun of people with purple hair and posted a picture with his wife who has purple hair. And so he just simply said, loved the Michael Knowles speech, all except for the part about purple hair. Now, most people were joking down in the comments section, but of course, the great saviors of the Christian movement, those who desire unity and to bring us all together because they're so loving, the new evangelicals posted down below in the comments section on this tweet that it's nice to see where you get your religion from. Such unity coming from these complete heretics. So suffice to say, the progressive Christian movement is one that boasts all of the right things in theory, but in practice is actually completely watered down and tepid Christianity. Let me show you one more thing, because this is not necessarily a Christian group, but a group that is dedicated to destroying fascism while also being the most fascist group on the planet. And their main target is, of course, white Christofascism, whatever that is. And just recently, in response to what Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire was saying about the Vanderbilt clinic, they posted this, the two faces of Matt Walsh. And it's their accusation that Matt Walsh is defending a pedophile while also decrying those who are pedophiles in this Blaze article. Now, I'll link it down below and do what A9 Collective didn't do, because I can only assume that they're actually afraid of the truth, which is that Matt Walsh wasn't defending this Duggar boy who fondled young girls when he was 14 years old. Now, I'll make no excuses for it because it's disgusting and it should be called for what it is. But if you read the article yourself, which A9 Collective hopes that you don't, because the real fascists are fascists like them who are asking for Matt Walsh to be canceled on iHeartRadio in this post that you can see on the screen now, where they say apparently iHeartRadio hearts hate. Yeah, so A9 Collective is a supposedly anti-fascist, but of course very fascist because they exist to cancel people and to eliminate people's platforms and to try to hurt people's income stream. Now, of course, they can't do it because they operate on completely foolish ideas and false accusations. So back to the false accusation, which is that Matt Walsh was defending Josh Duggar in what he did by calling progressives and leftist hypocrites for their outrage over Josh Duggar. But of course, if you read the article, what Matt Walsh is actually doing is just simply saying this, that there is no time that leftists and progressives care about what people are doing to kids until it's an opportunity for them to jump on a conservative Christian. Matt Walsh wasn't defending Josh Duggar. Matt Walsh was just simply saying this, that progressive Christians don't care at all about kids. That liberals and leftists, they don't care about kids. They're sitting idly back right now, especially, while kids march into gender clinics and get on puberty blockers that could cause blindness, and then have life-altering, mutilating bodily surgeries that will keep them from ever having orgasms ever again. And Matt Walsh is simply calling out the fact that if you have an issue, why don't you raise it when these things are happening? In other words, you're only jumping on Josh Duggar because he's an outspoken conservative Christian and you're a bunch of hypocrites. Matt Walsh doesn't wish to defend Josh Duggar just simply because he's a Christian and isn't in the article. Now, again, I'll encourage you to go check the article out yourself, and then you can make up your own opinion, and you can even put it down in the comments section what you think about it. Suffice to say, what Matt Walsh is doing seems consistent. What places like Matthew Paul Turner and A9 Collective and the New Evangelicals, what they're doing, it doesn't seem consistent. I mean, the New Evangelicals are willing to call out Trump supporters, but nowhere near as willing to call out the Vanderbilt Gender Clinic. Where are the posts about that? Because if you're a real Christian, you might have an issue with that kind of morality. As I've already illustrated, the kind of morality that butchers children and leaves them in lifelong pain. So at the end of the day, I guess what I really want to do is I want to step aside from the neo-fascist, fascist, progressive Christian movement and just say this. We need to be careful that we do not fall for the supposed lies of false benevolence. What I mean by that is that there is no commandment in the Bible to be nice. Now, should you be nice? Sure. But human compassion has limitations. And what actually needs to happen is a revival of Christians who actually wish to think biblically. This is what Indie Thinker is about at the end of the day, whether you know it or not, is that whether you're a Christian or not, the Bible has some pretty interesting things to say. And even more so, the more our social contract in America begins to erode and we no longer know where to derive our values from. When we sit back and think to ourselves, what right do you have to say about this proclivity and what right do you have to say about this proclivity? Like we did on the show last week. What right do you have to say that drag queens twerking and showing their crotch to a bunch of children is wrong? Well, frankly, we're going to have this conversation once again in society, and I try to stage it very often on the show. Where do we truly draw our values from? Because ultimately, if it isn't from the Bible, well, then I think we have to come to the conclusion that there is no limit to the extremes that we can take in society, and there is a no-holds-barred kind of philosophy out there that says you do you, even when it injures and abuses small children. Otherwise, we might have to come back to an understanding that the Bible has some pretty important things to say to us, and that human compassion, with its limits, should be displayed as much as possible within the context of truth. So push aside the fact that, with little exception, people who use the word fascist have never actually read anything about actual fascists and have no understanding of what the word is historically speaking. Let's rather focus on something else. I think something that's really more important. People like Matthew Paul Turner, people like the New Evangelicals and A9 Collective, you should know this, guys. the implosion of leftist ideology, it's coming. It's going to happen. And you may be able to fool people with heresy and garbage ideology, and you may be able to fool fragile egos, and you may be able to extort them into thinking this is what compassion looks like, and if you don't do what I say, then you're not compassionate. You may be able to fool those kind of people, but you won't be able to fool them for long. And people like me are coming for you. And I don't blame you for not being too scared, because I'm small. I've only been at this a year. But there are other people out there, people like Mike Winger and people like Alyssa Childers, people like John Cooper, people like the Daily Wire, and many more who do have bigger platforms. And I, along with them, will continue to expose the heresy and the lies of the progressive Christian movement. And you should know this. Christianity, yes, it's in decline in the West, but that only means one thing. The real church, when backed into a corner, will rise. And they're going to do so stronger than ever. I'm personally not stopping until I amass an army of Christians with hearts and chests who defend the weak against this kind of heresy, against postmodernism, and against neo-Marxist groupthink. So, while, again, I don't know that you're too worried about that yet, you should be. Your days of fooling people with this kind of blind, mindless, spiritless ideology are numbered. Together with a group of Christians who actually care to quote the Bible than rather just say the word history, new evangelicals, and never actually talk about what you mean by that, your days are numbered, because the truth will overpower the darkness. So please know my warning is nothing but intended to be benevolent. It's not physical in nature. We're not coming for you in that way, so don't even go there. It's spiritual. And yes, that is a scare tactic, because it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the Lord. I won't resort to the kind of hate and personal attacks that you guys spew. I will only tell you this. It's time to repent before it's too late. Let go of the superficial satisfaction you feel when transgender people affirm your message and they just love you and applaud you, and start seeing that as a bad thing. And tell the truth, even when it hurts, because that's what real men do, and that's what real Christians do. Guys, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go with God. You can catch brand new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Huberman every Monday, and weekly bonus episodes to keep you thinking throughout the week. But you have to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like this video and share it with friends.